President North America for AI Solve. AI Solve is a tech company that has created WePlayVR, which is a turnkey modular VR attraction and installation with a haptic floor, free roaming, and we're 2 to 4 player.
I'm Brad Scoggin. I'm co-founder and CEO of SpringboardVR, and we started out as operators and then moved into the software space, and we have a turnkey software solution to help run and manage your arcade as well as get your content.
And I'm Jan Goodluck. I'm the CEO of Virtuix. We make the Virtuix Omni, which is the first, it's over there, it's the first omnidirectional treadmill that allows you to walk and run around inside VR games and applications. We ship now over 2,500 Omnis, actually almost 3,000 Omnis all over the world. We're in over 500 commercial entertainment locations on 5 continents, which I think makes us the most widely distributed VR hardware besides the headsets. We work with distributors in Asia, Europe, North and South America. We have 16 distributors. We're here with our US Maze, and we hope you can try out the Omni here later today. It comes also with a content platform as well, with 17 games, so we can talk about that also. Thank you.
And I'm Jeremy, Virtual World Arcade. For about a year, we ran a VR arcade in a mall, and right now we currently do VR birthday parties and corporate events. We also produce content, mainly produce content for VR arcades and theme parks. So for the first question, I want to run these questions through everybody. What is your company's business model? And if your customers are the VR arcade owners, what is their business model generally? How do they make money as VR arcade owners, VR theme park owners? Yeah, who wants to take that? Who wants to take that first?
Sure. I'll give a quick answer. So our customers are VR arcades, gaming centers, entertainment centers, and then they make money typically about $1 a minute with our platform. Depends on the city, on the region. Of course, in Asia it tends to be less, but in the US it's about $1 to $2 a minute that they can charge for gameplay on the Omni. So it's maybe $10 for 12 minutes, $12 for 15 minutes, maybe per half hour, per hour slots as well. So then we make money on the hardware as well as on our content platform, Omniverse, which has exclusive games optimized not just for the Omni, but also for location-based entertainment, which is very important. And I do want to stress that during this talk is that LBE needs games optimized for LBE. I see a lot of entertainment locations playing Steam games or home games, and it just becomes very difficult sometimes for players to figure out what to do if they're not gamers. But that's in a nutshell how we make money and how our operators make money.
So we're a SaaS-based platform. We work in a couple verticals in addition to entertainment, education, enterprise. But in the entertainment vertical, our product kind of has 3 main components. We do the location management, and so we've got an in-headset launcher and then a back end that allows the operator to run multiple stations, multiple locations, and all of the details that go into that. So we charge $30 a month per headset for that. We also have a booking system that comes along with that, user profiles and those things. And we also do content distribution. We've been doing that for about 5 months now. And so we handle the commercial licensing. We currently utilize Steam to actually distribute the keys. We're about a month or so away from hosting the content ourselves. And we take a 25% fee from the content creator to distribute that, so a little bit less than Steam. Currently we do per minute pricing, kind of for our beta. I talked about that a little bit yesterday. We wanted to collect a lot of data instead of just assuming or leveraging our volume. We're in 300 locations. So instead of just using that volume to wear the content creators down in price, we wanted to get real data to go back and say, okay, here's a price that's actually healthy for the ecosystem. And so within the arcade space, most of our customers do the hourly charging, like Jan talked about, and we recommend to our customers based on our data to see, based on who's profitable and who's not. It's the guys that are in the $20, $25 an hour range versus the $45 to $60 an hour range.
So for WePlayVR, we sell that directly to owners and operators, family entertainment centers, leisure parks, leisure destinations. A couple of malls in the Middle East are working with it, and a couple of premium evening, retail destinations, but like with a food and bev component to it. So those owners and operators, they staff it themselves. We just sell directly the hardware, the games, the operating system. We create everything. We manufacture the unit itself. We have programmed the operating system, the show control system. All of it, it just comes as one unit from us. The owners and operators are roughly in the dollar a minute range, a little bit more internationally than domestically, and that's non-premium IP. I think with what's going on with like the Void and some other, there's going to be room for a premium price tag to come along with that. But for us, malls, leisure destinations, that's our target market, and especially family entertainment centers, because they are already, the guests coming to those venues are primed for these kinds of experiences. We're not trying to, save malls and things like that. So we're really focused, hyper-focused on family entertainment centers, leisure parks, and things like that.
And I cover two spectrums here with VR Junkies and the private label, so I'll kind of hit them both really quick. VR Junkies was arcade franchise platform, and so obviously we're a traditional franchise. We give you a business model and you go make it work. With that is we offer a lot of help along the way to try to help you be more successful. I think we've actually done pretty well with it. So just a quick snapshot. Private label is a drop-and-play solution, similar to what has been talked by Shauna and others. As we go in and do the full installation, we usually work with FECs, trampoline parks, and other existing entertainment venues, and it's a little different model. I mean, the two are actually quite disparate in terms of how they go in place and how just the interaction with the customer base as well as what we see for the average playtime. Points are a little different also. So you got to remember, if you're in an FEC, you've already got your expenses are covered largely. You have a building, you have a space. A lot of places have just open space to put stuff, and so it's easy for them to make profit. It's like, hey, just drop this in place. We see places ROI very quickly on our baked-in solution. However, with the arcade, you end up with a very different model, in which you do have to be pretty careful on what you do. As Brad had mentioned, I think there's, and maybe we'll get into that, but there's some really specifics that can kill you really rapidly in the arcade industry. And so as VR Junkies, we try to provide that backing for what we've seen that has worked well to help arcade owners be more successful. Our model with the private label is exactly as Shauna said. We simply charge for the services, all the warranty and support for the time when you install our services, install our equipment, and then you staff and make the money. For the franchise, there's a franchise fee. It's a standard 5%. So anyway.
So our business model breaks down into three main components, that being infrastructure. So we build, manufacture, and create portable and brick and mortar infrastructure for arcades or locations, like the right over there, the mobile unit. We also have services, so we do workshop training for VR arcades or staffing training and how to use the technology. And then we also have data. So we actually collect data with every single user that comes through one of our units. We take a survey, we understand why they came, their demographic, what they came to do there for, and their thoughts about it. So we then lease, sell, work with, consult with clients, arcade owners alike.
And for the prospective VR arcade owners out there, a big question is, what type of VR arcade business should I go into? Should it be a small event-run business? Should it be a VR arcade in a mall? Should it be a big warehouse scale? It's always one of the big questions when you're entering. So I want to ask the folks in the room who, what the size of your business, or if you're like for Springboard, what your customers have chosen and why. For us, Virtual World Arcade, we ran a VR arcade in the mall. But we had to pay really high rent, and we decided, okay, well, we make a lot of money off of it for ourselves. It was best to go to the events mall. So we run birthday parties, we run corporate events, and we drive to an event. We run it for a couple of hours, and it's a lot more profitable for us. So that's the path that we've chosen. Why have you guys chosen the size, the scale that you guys have chosen?
Okay, so yeah, our platform can be adapted to any vertical. And a vertical that we've gone after very aggressively is the live events market as well. We have about 25 of these mobile portable units that we go to events on every day. We go about 3 times a week on average, and we have lined up 100 units to be built this year, and on a minimum usage that would be about 33 events a day, and that would be about 100 users a day, meaning 100 surveys per unit per day being brought into the company. So that's something that we're going after aggressively, but we're also expanding our inventory and doing multi-units, 4-player units, 16-player units, and building infrastructure and actual retail spaces as well.
So if you own an existing facility, VR is a no-brainer. It makes good money, especially if you have existing traffic. We go into, with VR Junkies, we suggest a lot of facilities go into malls. We're able to negotiate rents really well in malls because of some of the challenges they face with occupancy. And it is, now, so if you go and you ask someone to quote your price, they're going to give you some astronomical number. We have a team that goes in and works to get that down, people that have done this for a long time and do a very good job at it. Because the rent is critical. You have your fixed costs. Anything you make over your fixed, it's pretty profitable, but you have to clear those fixed, and so you have to be careful what you're putting out there. There are some benefits and pros and cons to a mall versus to an inline store or some other existing location that you can go into. We have our top facilities, actually specifically, are not in malls. We have some that perform really well. The ramp-up time is longer if you're outside of the mall. But there are some big benefits. You have better control over your hours. For example, a mall, you have to be open all day, every day, all those hours, and most of them are waste. So you're just sitting there burning money for the employee to sit in there. So there are some caveats to that. Sometimes malls will negotiate and let you close down for certain points, but pros and cons. My suggestion would be, if you're seriously looking at it, is you really need to understand what the walk-by traffic is of the location. And then you need to, if you are going into a low walk-by area, you really, really need to have a marketing plan in place and have made a spreadsheet that actually works. Because if it doesn't work on a spreadsheet, it will not work in real life. I don't know how many people I have to tell this to. Like, if the numbers don't work on a spreadsheet, it is not going to actually work out. You're going to lose your money. And so you really need to dissect what's going to be happening when you open this. How are you going to drive traffic? When that traffic comes in, what you're making on that traffic, and what your return rates are. We see between 30 and 50% return rates at our facilities. Just to give you some numbers to put in your spreadsheets as you're figuring that out. But you really need to dial that in before you get started. I think anything can work, but you got to have a plan.
How many stations do you typically have in one of your locations?
We require 6 as a minimum. The traffic especially in arcades, it's so critical that you capture traffic when you have it. And so you might go the whole week and you're barely breaking even while you're open, especially in a mall if you're open a bunch of hours. And so on that Friday, Saturday, you're able to capture, maybe 50, 60% of all of your revenues, very possibly, for the whole week are going to come on those 3 days. And if you can't load that facility with people the whole time, then you're not going to clear your overheads. You're not going to make profit. So 6 is our minimum. We have facilities that go up to 10 typically, somewhere in that range.
So we have launched, I think, 23 locations for We Play VR over the last 10 months. We introduced the product just a year ago at Deal, the Dubai Entertainment and Leisure Show, and it really took off internationally. And we just kind of started to ramp up here in North America more recently. Owners and operators that are really thriving and succeeding with this unit are definitely in the family entertainment center and leisure, destination spaces. The audiences, I think we were just talking about this in the last round, but the people who are going to those venues, it's a very purpose-built venue. You're going for thrills, delight, gaming, socializing, being with friends. And so VR fits into that, and We Play VR fits into that. Some of the things that we did for the unit to kind of support kind of interactivity and things like that were to do plexiglass walls so that you could see the activity going inside. And then we restream the content that's being played in it so that people can watch from the outside. So you can see the player playing, but then you can watch what their gameplay footage is. And then I think we talked about this before, but the software actually cuts away during the puzzle-based adventure games that we do when someone's solving a puzzle. Okay, so why do I talk about all this? So for the cutaway screen where you're watching the player play, we give the owners and operators the ability to upload ads during that cutaway time so that they have an additional way to monetize, or they can just upload their own logo, their own ads, whatever they want to do. But if they already have an existing advertising partnership with, say, Coca-Cola or the Corn Dog Company, that they can have an additional revenue source for that.
So would you say most of your locations are like a theme park with offering a lot of different rides? Is it an FEC with a bunch of different VRK games? And because your solution is a single player, single station?
Yeah, we started introducing 2-player games, and then we are launching a 4-player unit in I think 2.5 months, midsummer. So in the family entertainment centers and in the Alton Towers, people are stopping and watching, and then getting in line to play as well.
And for Springboard and for Berkeley, among all of your customers, what does the size of their operations look like? Are they 8-station VR arcades? Is it a theme park? Is it, if they have a Virtuex in it, how many of their spaces are Virtuex?
Yeah, and I want to answer a little bit of what you asked them as well. So the question was, if you're thinking about getting in, what sector, what space should you get into?
The size of the operation. Is it? Should they build a 4-player VR arcade? Should they build? Should they have 10 stations?
So it's. I mean, and we all know this, but it's all about utilization, right? So if you can start with some mobile events, that's a great way to do it because you've got 100% utilization. We see about 60% of our operators are not in malls. McKay thought, there's positives and negatives to the mall. I think there's a little bit of a subconscious when you get in a mall, you can get lazy because you think, I got foot traffic. And when you're getting in this business, you cannot be lazy, especially on the front end. You've got to take the VR to the people, go do demos, get out on the university campuses, whatever it takes. We recommend generally a minimum of 8 stations because we push for a lower price point around the $20 to $25 an hour range, so you can drive repeat business. And at that price point, you really need to have closer to 8 at least to maximize the utilization during the busy times and to make sure that you can cover your costs. And that's okay.
Yeah, the only thing I want to add is what not to do. One model we've seen not work is the mall kiosk model, having a kiosk in the mall. That pricing is highly optimized in the US. It's very hard to make money. That doesn't work well if you have an inline store in a mall. That can work because then you can have people come for parties, birthday parties. Because that's the second thing, you cannot count on foot traffic. If you count on foot traffic, that's not enough. You have to really drive marketing and get people to come to you for parties or events. Because that's the second thing. One thing we saw in China, if you here are still believing there's 5,000 VR arcades in China, you're a year behind. Most of those 5,000 arcades in China, VR arcades have already closed down. China went through a huge boom and a huge bust in the VR arcade industry. People were just popping up VR arcades everywhere, thinking people would just come. And guess what? People don't just come. It's like opening up a restaurant. You're going to open up your restaurant day one, and nobody's going to be there unless you really drive marketing. So that's important to note. Your question about size and how many, what we see work well is reserve enough capital to purchase, first of all, enough stations. I think McKay and Brad are right. Your Friday and Saturday nights, you need to be able to handle lots of traffic and make a lot of money, though, so you need a lot of stations. What we also see work well is have a lot of different attractions, have some room scale setups, but have maybe some omnis, have maybe a racing simulator, have a legacy Nintendo, have an Atari, have some F&D if you can, make some money with food and drinks. The more you can offer and the more different things and variety, that works well. When we see the arcade opening up with 3 or 4 room scale setups and nothing else, man, we're pretty sure that that business is not going to be around a year from now. So offer variety and have enough capital to buy variety and then drive marketing.
And who are your target customers? Is it families? Is it kids? Is it older? Is it teens, millennials? Clifton touched on that subject earlier, the data talk. Or is it older adults? Is it corporate people? And what's the percentage breakdown for us? For doing mobile events, we get a lot of birthday parties, so a lot of it is kids, and we also get the corporate events, which are older people. But revenue-wise, it's about half and half. A little bit more birthday parties, but we get more birthday parties for us.
Yeah, for us, it's really all the above, depending on the location.
Yeah, I mean, we work with all different types, whether it's even though we don't recommend it, we do have people that have the 4 to 6 stations, all the way up to the 20 to 30 stations and FECs. So anyway, that's our customer. But I think the big misconception, and someone touched on this at some point, is it's not the gamers, right? It's the people that go to Dave & Buster's, it's the people that go to Topgolf, it's the people that go to Chuck E. Cheese. So
Yeah, we were interested in getting as many people into VR as possible, so we went a different route where we weren't. We were creating experiences that were attractive to, Becky and Johnny, who are 12 and 13 and maybe 16, that range. But then we discovered that mom and dad would be watching the kids playing and seeing up on the screen that it wasn't just a video game, it wasn't just a zombie shooter, that it was adventure-based puzzles and things like that, and there was problem solving and delight. And so mom and dad started playing as well. So, that kind of, the more content, like, there's always going to be specialty, right? There are going to be people who want to do shooters and things like that. But the more you can create content that appeals to a broad demographic, the more people the more people you can get into it. So a little bit more skewed towards about 12 to 16 is the range, but we end up with, whole families trying it.
Sorry, one quick thing. So we do have user profiles that we launched a few months ago. And as those grow for us, we'll have a lot more demographic data that we're pretty excited about. And just for example, last month we had 236,000 sessions launched across our platform. So as that comes online, there'll be more data, around demographics.
We've been running user profiles from the better part of a year, I believe. And so we do have actually a lot of data on this subject broken down by demographic, age. Anyway, and it is pretty interesting, and it's very varied based on, again, where the facility is located and largely how they choose to market. As mentioned, if you go in and you don't market, you are going to be closing your doors in not very long, once your money runs out, which isn't going to be very long. And so you really need to choose a market that you want to target. Now, anything in that, high school to college age is the demographic that really lights up and is super excited and is pretty easy to draw on your doors. However, they don't have any money. Okay, so it's pros and cons to everything, but you really do need to choose a demographic that you're going to target when you open and target towards that demographic and try to bring them in. One of the things that we're doing right now, for example, is we're working to target more heavily on some of the parties and some of the event space. I think it certainly is an interesting model. There's a lot of facilities that exist that run very well on just 50% of the revenues are parties, and so there's a lot of things that you want to look at, but you really need to look pretty specifically at saying this is the demographic that I believe I have heavily in the area. Maybe there's a college campus close by. Go get on the campus and drive traffic through that campus. Give them some discounts to come in. We see, majority, I think it's about a 60-40 male-female. Once someone comes in, however, the return rates are pretty split. So, getting some of the ladies in the headsets is harder just naturally. However, once they come in and play, they're just as likely to come back and play more. So, anyway, it's definitely interesting data, and maybe we can release kind of an article with some more of our insights and stuff on a blog and share that with everybody.
Yes, I'll echo what everyone said. It really depends on the vertical that you're going after to who your audience will be. We really range from education to health centers to hospitality to, it goes all around. But our average user is about 23 years old, a male, and has not tried VR before. So I say male because it's 70-30 on our end, and we're ranging from between the ages of 17 and 33 is our rough average.
Thank you. And so for the prospective VR arcade owners out there who are trying to figure out a business plan, gather a team, find a location, all those things like that, existing VR arcade owners who have their business running, what for you guys are like the top, say top 3, for example, or top requirements that they need to get down to know to run a successful business, whether it's location or whether it's the quality of their staff, what skills they need, or a amount of capital, or hardware or software products that they need. What do they need to be top requirements in this business?
Well, all of the above. It's all about, at this stage of the industry, it's all about working together and integrating the best type of content, the best type of hardware. So it's very much a logistical effort. It takes a lot to just have one system working correctly, and it takes even more to have 6 or 7 or 10 systems working correctly. So you have to be very logistically strong, and services is very important as well. You have to have a human aspect to what you have built. VR is still semi-unapproachable, but when there's a friendly face standing next to your unit or next to your system, it makes it much more friendly.
So, I mean, the question's what are the key things they need to do, right, to make their thing a success? People come to have an experience. Okay, they're not coming to play VR. If you market and say, "Hey, we got VR and it's super awesome," your marketing is going to fail. People want to come and have an experience in your facility, and so your facility is there to facilitate that and give that as best experience as you can. So that means you need to have staff that are there to help. You need to have staff that are there to help them get into the games, learn how to play the games quickly. But you do also need to be careful not to overstaff, because that can run you out of business quick as well. So, but there's that dynamic. We have a lot of people come back. And, Brad mentioned earlier with some of the price points. Typically, our arcades are usually closer to the $1 a minute, $30 to $45 an hour kind of range. And we've got competitors open in locations that are all around us, but we still see that traffic come in. And a lot of that is actually, we ask the customers, and it's because they have a good experience. We staff a little heavier in our locations, and the experience is a better experience because there's more hands-on, more human interaction. So as long as they feel like they're getting a good experience, they will be back, and that's kind of the savior for your business, is having people come back and play several times a month.
All good stuff. There's just so many, it's like, this is like throwing down the real knowledge, right? Like, this is like, these are the things. Just 3. Okay, so it sounds silly, but enthusiasm. Our most successful owners and operators, they love this. They're like, VR, woo! They're really, really excited about it. And that enthusiasm that they have for the technology itself translates into a positive experience for the people that they're introducing it to. So second, then, would be great marketing. We see the people who are doing great. They're out there, even if it's small posts and things like that, they're getting into it. They see this as, it again ties into the enthusiasm. They see this as something that's new and exciting and different, and they really leverage that in their social media posts and their commercials, however it is they market. So enthusiasm, good marketing, and then the third is really knowing your demographic, knowing where you're going to be, putting this thing in. If you're, again, I always point to one of our owners and operators up in Tukwila, which is a suburb of Seattle, at called Family Fun Center. They know their demographic. They know how to talk to them. They knew that this unit would be successful there at that location because they already know their demographic. And it has performed, it exceeded their expectations, which were pretty high already. And I think that was just kind of a critical thing. They were like, these are the people that come to our facility. We know they're going to love VR. We're excited about it, and we're marketing it really well. And the whole experience for them has been really powerful and profitable.
So I think, mean, overall, it's the same principles in running any business or any retail space apply, right? Or any retail business apply. Okay, so specifically for VR, what are the things you need to do and not do? I talked about it yesterday, but it's the marketing. Take the VR to the people. Buy an extra headset or two and hire somebody to go to the university, go to the festival, and do demos. You're just going to have to work. Okay, get people in VR to get them in. And then making sure you don't have too few stations. We've seen people go out of business because of that. I mean, there's a guy he got 12 stations and he opened 3 locations with 4. And he said, he was out of business 3 months later. He should have done 1 station with 12. So have a minimum of 8, 6. McKay's had seen success with 6, but 6 to 8 at least. And then have a price point that does drive repeat business. And just to McKay's point, let's see, 80% of our customers say that the reason they have repeat business is because of great customer service. And I think we all know that, but it's something you can't overlook. And then right behind that is multiplayer. So you got to have multiplayer. So the marketing, the price point, the good experience, and then multiplayer with a minimum of 6 to 8 stations.
Yeah, and I will add to that. The most important thing you can do, I think, is hire right. There's a couple of things to keep in mind with VR. One, it's not yet just still a big green button you push and it works. There's a lot of things that often don't work. 2, we did a survey with our worldwide operators. We had about 100 responses to about 500 locations. The question was, what's the main reason people don't play? The number 1 answer was they're a bit shy to try it. So you need to hire the right people that will put people at ease, walk them through the experience, and make sure they have a good time. If you hire somebody at $9 an hour who just sits on a chair or watches his phone, your business is not going to work. Coupled with that, a few things I kept hearing here is that most people that visit you will have never tried VR before. And guess what? Most people will also not be gamers. A lot of people, they don't know how to play video games. So the operator is necessary to explain to them what to do, which is crucial. Another thing we do with our content platform is we optimize all our games for location-based entertainment, which means we remove all the menus, we remove all the settings, we make it easy to play. If the player needs to stop and take off the headset and say, hey, what do I do here? Hello, can somebody help me? I'm sorry, but that's a terrible experience. Unfortunately, you're going to have that all the time when you play games on Steam. For example, I get the question all the time, can you play Skyrim VR with the Omni? Can you play Fallout 4 with the Omni? The answer is no. No. It's a terrible game for location-based entertainment, right? You have to the Pip-Boy, all these settings, menus. Most people that will visit your arcade, they will not know what Skyrim is, right? So they don't care, but you're going to put them in Skyrim, and they're going to go, wait, what do I do here? Right? So it doesn't work. It's really important that you have games and content that is optimized for location-based entertainment, which I know is a challenge because there's not that many games out there. Most of you will play Steam games, and that's all right too, but then you have to invest in a good staff, a good operator that can really hold the hands of all your customers, because it's going to be required when you play some of these Steam games in your location-based entertainment center. And it depends too. If you have a VR arcade, you can attract a bit more of the tech-savvy customer. But if you have a family entertainment center, man, you're going to have all ages, all customers. They have no clue about how to play video games. They're maybe a little bit drunk. It has to be easy to play. It's very important.
So from an international perspective, because we spend a lot of time in that area, I think also in terms of optimizing for location-based, is that you're not just going after multiple demographics, but you're actually going after multiple cultures, and making content for us that was culturally appealing across a wide spectrum was super important. So that's why we continue to focus, on adventure-based puzzle solving, those types of things that are easy to get someone into, easy to get them working through it. The controllers are not complicated. You don't have to learn 10 buttons. It's pretty much just a grab and go. And that really is important because for a lot of people who are trying VR for the first time, you've got like 30 seconds. You've got, you have 60 seconds. You've got 30 seconds to get them excited about VR, excited about putting on the headset, okay with putting on the headset, not worrying about hygiene with the headset. And then you have to get them into VR in that other 30 seconds. So the smoother you can make it for them, definitely is like it just across any culture as smoothly as you can make it.
And the last question is going to be about what's the number one pitfall that'll tank the VR arcade business. And we're going to do Q&A right after that. So we've already got quite a lot of Q&A questions. But for those of you who don't know, Slido.com, go to that website and enter code B704 to enter your question. So what's the number one pitfall that'll tank?
I'll keep it short. You hired an enthusiastic minimum wage person who doesn't run your business enthusiastically, and you didn't have enough capital to really invest in both your equipment, a variety of it, and marketing.
One thing, and I've said it before, is just not having enough stations. You've got to raise enough capital to start out with enough stations.
Yeah, so just don't do anything we just suggested, and that'll be a guaranteed fail there. So just don't do anything we just suggested. And then on top of that, you know, to guarantee failure, definitely pick a place where your product is going to be reinvigorating foot traffic that has fallen away. You know, oh, we'll bring this in and it will bring back foot traffic. It's not. It's not. Foot traffic is going to Amazon.com to shop. So don't think of it that way. Think about going to where people already are.
Yeah, it comes back down to the capital. If you open a facility and it looks like crap, people aren't going to come in. If you go cheap on the build out, if you go cheap on not having the money to do marketing, getting again a location with potentially terrible football, and again, as I mentioned, all of this should be abundantly available in your spreadsheet that you run before you start spending money to make sure that your model is actually going to work.
So the pitfalls in a virtual reality arcade is actually something that Exit Reality addresses. So there are many different things, such as content. It's really important to have amazing content that really blows people away. So you have to work very closely with developers and build great relationships. It's also cable management, and therefore we've created something that deletes and takes away all cables and just clears away all that space. You have to be also ADA compliant, so accessibility is really important. And again, services, you want to have amazing staff. If you do have somebody sitting and on their phone and not enthusiastic, that is just a immediate turnaround. Just like any other service industry, if your waiter is bad, you don't like the restaurant, no matter how good the food is.
So we're going to move ahead to Q&A. The first questions are from Josh DeGeorge in the audience. Can you raise your hand? All right. So first question for McKay. Do you have any advice for building a strong community of VR arcade regulars?
Yes and no. This is actually a really challenging thing to do. We have tried this multiple times, and I think the most successful thing so far that has been done is to set up regular intervals at which people can come in. So, choose a night of the week, and that is your, whether it's tournament night and or, your membership night, whatever. Give them a steep discount, get people in there, and let them start coming back on a regular basis. But this is actually a big challenge. All marketing in this regard is very challenging in VR. I can't explain exactly why that is. I have a whole bunch of opinions, but if you do it regularly, so people know this is going to happen at this day and time, and every time they come in, you can invite them to come back and join in. I think that's going to be your most success. The other thing is realize it's going to take time.
The next question is from for Daisy. What would you say is the most important quality in hiring an employee to work at the arcade? Would you find consistency and procedure critical?
Well, enthusiasm is really important. Also, being able to handle computer malfunctions is really important. That's something that you can teach. So what we do with all of our staff, we actually have a 5-day-long workshop before they even hit the floor. And that includes taking apart a headset, really learning what can go wrong and how we can solve for X, because a lot of things can go wrong. And just being very personal with your staff.
Next question is for me. For birthday parties and corporate events, how many stations do you usually do? How do you facilitate it? How do you charge? So we do 4 to 8. 4 to 8 stations. We bring at least 4. We do parties from 8 to 16 people, and then for more than that, we charge hourly. It's usually like a big event with a bunch of other stuff, other food, other games, and other things like that. For over 16. And then how do we facilitate? We bring 1 or 2 staff. We have tech support and we have customer service staff. And how do you charge? We charge $400 an hour. We used to charge $40 per person, but we realized per hour worked better for us. We know other VR arcades that charge $500 an hour, so that's kind of the range. Let me look through the rest of the questions here. So, what element of genre, of the varied genre content gets the most feedback from the customers? Do customers comment on the design, sound, and graphics?
Yeah, we did and part of our survey, one question was, first of all, what games are most popular? Number 2 answers, 1, first-person shooter, 2, multiplayer, no surprise there. Followed by, I think, horror was a third one. And then what success factors, contribute most to the game's success, and what are the most important elements? And one top answer was it has to be easy to play. Simple menus, well, as I said, we take out all the menus and the settings, but even the control scheme, it's got to be simple, easy to understand. And number 2 answer, it's got to be easy to beat. People don't like to die. Our number 1 third-party title, people actually don't die. And it works well. People like that. People don't like to die. And then actually the quality of the graphics, way down below there. I think 6 or 7. So not that important. It's really about the experience, again, for non-gamers. Your customers are going to be predominantly non-gamers. So easy to play, easy to understand, easy to win, feel good afterwards, and ideally multiplayer.
The next question, how do you set customer expectations, price per playtime, amount of staff, interaction per player? So earlier we talked about, how much do you charge? Earlier we talked about how many staff or what your staff has to do with the service that they provide. How do these owners set the expectation for the customer that, oh, this is the right thing for us to do, this is okay?
Sure, yeah. Yeah.
Like, how do you justify your price? How do you justify
the pricing of it? Again, you should be looking at a financial model for this, and then start somewhere. Start a little higher and start going down. It's easier to go down than it is to go up. Okay, so if you're just getting started, aim a little bit higher than maybe your financial model would work with, and see how people respond. You can always run discounts and specials and test lower pricing, and if you see that benefit is worth it, then adjust your pricing model accordingly. But you really need to run that again through a numbers, because, I mean, for example, if I cut my price in half, I actually have to have more than double the people through to make equivalent profit, right? Because I do have an expense that occurs for every minute that's played on both game time and operations costs. So run it through it. Again, I can't emphasize enough. Run it through a spreadsheet.
And I would recommend try to keep your prices high. Don't drop your prices. I'll give one example. We have one site in Melbourne, 5 Omnis. Our top sites makes about $30,000 a month with 5 Omnis. And they started out with $20 Australian dollars for 10 minutes. And then they did an experiment. They dropped it to $10 for 10 minutes. And when they dropped it to $10, they actually almost doubled the people that played. But the revenue was less because they charged $20. Actually, they had fewer people playing, but they made more money. So keep your prices high. Don't drop prices too fast.
I still disagree. I think it should keep your prices low. I think you got to look at your customer acquisition cost, right? So if you're going to spend $300 to acquire a customer, how many times are they going to come back and spend money? And so, like McKay said, every situation's different, but you've got to model that out.
Well, I think it settles somewhere in between, right? Because with the Omni, you're not just in a headset with hand controllers, right? It's by the nature of there being additional hardware, it's more of an experience. It's something, it's not just playing a console game, right? Like, it is a highly optimized for location-based entertainment piece of content. For We Play VR, it's the same thing. We have specifically designed this unit. It's got a haptic floor. We take you sideways. We take you up. We take you down. We take you to places you can't go in a house. Like, that's our litmus test for the experiences that we create. Is this something that someone could do at home? Whether or not they have a VR headset and in the home, because we know that's a barrier right there. but we squint our eyes and we go, is this something that you could do in home? Like, yeah. And if it is, we scrap the idea. These are absolutely, premium experiences. So having a higher price for it is completely justified, in my opinion.
Just to add to this, actually, that I think does kind of talk between the two differences of the high and the lower price. People are only willing to spend so much on a ticket. Okay, so it's important to realize if you do have higher pricing, you've got to have lower or cheaper options for them, because they're not going to come in and try it for 30, 40 bucks, almost no matter what you give them, because you're usually jumping that hurdle. How much are you willing to come in and spend? So get a shorter experience for a little less money. And what we do is we usually will run $1 a minute for a lot of our shorter term experiences, and then again you get discounts for buying for longer, and you can get into some of the cheaper price point. But a lot of our facilities will run that. If you got something between $10 and $15, that's where people are willing to spend money just to try something really easily.
Next question is, what's the minimum age that you guys allow people to play, and why? So for us, Virtual World Arcade, when we do our events, and actually we learned this through running the VR arcade at the mall, our minimum age is 6, and we have you have to sign a waiver of parental consent for under 18. So why 6? Mainly because kids under 6 don't really understand VR. When they go into the experience, they don't understand what to do, and a lot of them do get scared, the smaller kids. So we have the staff pay extra attention to them. But we found, once they go over the hurdle of 6, they have a great time. They'll play something super simple, a super simple experience, and they'll have a great time. But under 6, they don't really aren't really able to have that VR experience. That's what we found. But what are your minimum ages?
So we used to be open to all ages, where we would even try on toddlers, and they would be very amazed with their holding their parents' hand. But then we did a marketing campaign over the holiday season, and we had a kid around the age of 8 that actually tried on the headset, and after he came out, he wobbled and he got down to his knee, and his parents were obviously very upset and confused about what was happening. And since then, we've decided to stick over the age of 13 across the board, just because we haven't done enough research as to what is actually happening when we put the headset on, and do we want to test that out on our children? I don't think so.
Yeah, what are your minimum ages?
Yeah, we let them in. 6 is kind of a cutoff age as well, just from being able to actually run the controllers and everything. Parents are, we do have maturity levels on all of our games, and we have restrictions that parents can set as well for each of the headsets for what their kids are allowed to play. But parents are actually kind of stupid sometimes. We've had kids that their parents are forcing them to play these games, even though the staff's look, we really don't think you should do that. We do leave it up to their discretion, and I think we've even had some kids pee their pants. It's just terrible. So you really do. You want to, our policy at least is, at least for the VR junkies of facilities we have more control, is to be really careful on what games you're allowed to put kids that are younger in, because it's way more intense, and parents just don't understand that in a lot of cases.
So we put a recommended height, there. It's more of a theme park kind of, you must be this tall to VR. It's about, I think, 3.5 feet tall. But in general, we coach the owners and operators to communicate, with parents bringing younger kids, that's not necessarily recommended for under 12, maybe 10. But we also have a waiver on the unit that the owners and operators, they have each person that goes through, sign off, and just kind of a general, warnings about what to expect or what could go wrong and things like that. I know the headsets, going back from my earlier days when I worked at Oculus, it was Samsung had actually been the one to pick the age of 13 because it dealt with some other hardware issues and things like that around television and whatnot. So that kind of bled over into VR. And also there's just the comfort level. The IPD for a child is much closer together. The interpupillary distance here, the IPD talk. So little kids, you want the experience to be comfortable for them. So if their IPD range is smaller, it means that where they converge to be able to enjoy stereo content, it's going to be it's a different headset size, it's a different everything. So you want to make sure that you're also thinking is this going to be a comfortable experience for them? Okay.
I think that's covered pretty well. I mean, we don't dictate to our operators what age, but we do offer the ability for the operators to filter content, obviously by genre and age range, and then even what's seen in the headset can be filtered. So.
I think the headsets now say 7 years. I think it was lowered to 7 years recently. The headsets.
The next question is, what's the ratio of staff to stations? For us, it's 1 to 4. What's the ratio to staff to stations for you guys? Because these guys have to consider staffing expense, right? What do you guys use for staffing?
Yeah, with the Omni, we're going for 4 to 1 as well. Maybe it gets busy 2 to 1, but 4 to 1 is a goal to make the ROI work.
Yeah, so I mean, this was the main reason we built Springboard initially when we were an operator, was to save on the overhead, so that you don't have to have as much staff and you can maintain the same quality of experience. So that you put the headset on the small child, or I always say your 3-year-old or your grandma, right? And then they can navigate the experience on their own. So we usually say 1 to 5-ish. Some of our successful operators will do 4 for 32, so you could get up to the 1 to 8 range. So our platform helps increase that ratio. Or lower that ratio, but then depending on how well you can run your operation, you can get it lower.
So it's 1 attendant per unit, whether there's 1 person with our new units up to 4 players, that will still just be 1 attendant. If you got 2 units side by side, it would still just be 1 attendant.
Ours ranges pretty widely depending on what the installation's like. For VR, for places like FECs, it's usually 1 for the whole install, which is typically between 4 to 8 booths, where it's a little more hands-off. For VR junkies, where we're in high traffic or high walk-in areas, we have, usually on like a Saturday, if we're packed with between 6 and 8 booths, we may have 3 operators for that whole space, because we will have people that are dedicated to greeting and dealing with the sales. And a lot of times in that space, you've got 50 people that are in there you're trying to interact with at any given time. So it depends on how you're running your facility. Again, if it's a high sales environment, you're probably going to have more. And you want that. It's going to increase your sales, so it's worth paying the guy to stand there and greet people and help them in. If you're just, like, say, if you're in just an environment where they're coming in and they have booked a party, you can decrease that number.
Yeah, I'll just echo everything that was said just now. We have about 1 guide per unit that we have, but depending on how many players can go in every unit, we can scale that down. So we can do 1 person for a 2-player unit or 2 people for a 4-player unit. It really depends on where you are and how many players.
How hands-on are your employees, the staff, with the customers, for example, switching between players and stuff?
Very hands-on. So something that I actually talk about during the workshop is you are about to touch a lot of people's faces. You're about to get very up and close and personal with somebody that you don't know and they don't know you. So you have to become very friendly, and you have to become their best friend in that very small space and time. And they're also the user is about to go through an experience where they're very much, it's an out-of-body experience. It's a new, very exciting moment, and you're going to be their buddy, almost like their shaman in that moment. So it's very important to be friendly, be open. Again, much like the service industry, we call our guides white glove service attendants. So it's very, very important to have that moment.
I'd consider VR Junkies a medium touch facility. Just across the board, we do have more attendant. We do interact with the customers quite a bit, more so than I would say the typical arcade that's running. As mentioned, 1 per 8 to 10 booths. But again, we have facilities as well where it's a very light touch. I think the more touch consistently see higher return rates than the light. But there is some stuff there with the price point as well that you can up your return rates potentially too. So.
I would say most of the operators are at a medium touch, where you want there to be just enough good service where there's that enthusiasm and things like that for the experience, but then to get them into the backpack and the headset as quickly as possible and into the experience itself, so that they're not thinking about the technology, they're not thinking about someone staring at them and watching them play, so that they're just having a good time. So medium touch.
Well, I think we all agree that we all enjoy good customer service, but this is also about profitability. And so, I mean, that's again the point of Springboard is that you want to, once you get them in the headset, you want them to navigate without your help. You don't want to break the immersion. So with our system, we've got a great simple tutorial that shows them how to interact in their environment. You get game previews for each game. Once you get into the game, if you push pause, you have the buttons laid out, what they do in that game. So for us, you've got to balance both. You want to have high customer care and good customer experience, but once they get in the headset, you want to leave them alone.
Yeah, I'll just echo what Brad says. It's very important that you have some VR arcade management software like Springboard, which is an excellent example. And we do something similar, not as extensive, with our Omniverse platform, where players can be in a VR lobby, select their own game. If they don't like it, go back, select another game. There's tutorials included. There's see their time. So whatever that can be done to remove the need for an operator, you'll get that with, for example, Springboard, or that comes with the Omni as well. That's important.
So that's the end of the panel. Please help me thank our panelists for coming and speaking and sharing their learnings today. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. So our panelists will be around. If you guys have any further questions, feel free to come, go find them and ask some questions. So we're going to move on to our content panel. If I can invite our content panelist speakers to come up. Thank you, everybody.